house begins the second quadrant of the chart. It's the first water house associated in modern astrology with Cancer and the moon. It's the first house dedicated to the unconscious, the part of the mind that's unknown to us. But before I get deeper into the fourth at large, let's talk about its cusp. This cusp makes up one of the four angles in the chart. We know it as the IC, which is an abbreviation of the Latin Imum Coli, meaning bottom of the sky. Another term we use for this whole area of the wheel is the nadir. Nadir simply means lowest point. But to be clear, an astrological factor doesn't have to be in the fourth house to be at the nadir. A planet in the third that's pressed up against the IC is said to be at the nadir as well. Like every other house cusp, the Imum Coli is a lens through which we see an area of life. What we see through the lens of the fourth is family, home, roots, and foundation. The attitudes we hold about these things are imprinted upon us early, before we have the capacity for objectivity or analysis. So much of it funnels into the unconscious. The functionality or dysfunctionality of the early familial environment is your foundation in life. It determines how much and the quality of the energy you can provide to the other houses in the wheel, to your image in the first, to your self-value in the second, to your sense of discovery in the third, to the home you provide for yourself and your own family in the fourth, and so on. The identity you adopt for yourself and use throughout your life is only part of the picture. The other part of your identity is inherited through a family culture and family history. And not just the people you know and hear about, but ancestors you've never met. So I would go so far as to call the IC a conduit, a channel through which you receive a past. The fourth shows your perceptions of that past. It describes the roots of your personality and your deepest self-concept. It shows how you perceive your origins and even what role you likely took in the family system and why. And since it's the lowest, deepest part of the chart, the IC is connected to those things we hide from ourselves. Hidden traits and hidden attitudes are powerful expressly because they do whatever they want underground, influencing decisions unimpeded and unanalyzed. Never forget, this is the natural house of the crab, a shelled creature that spends most of its time under the waves or in a hole. It has a secretive nature, just like Scorpio, the other sign in the horoscope with an exoskeleton. It's easy for a native to overlook all the action at the IC, just as it's easy to be out of touch with planets in the other two water houses. Now, let's take a look at the concept of our roots. Roots keep a plant or a tree in one place, and roots also anchor a person emotionally and psychically. Roots are associated with home and family. There's a lot of emotional connection for humans with the environment they call home. And not just any place is home for most of us. To be called home, a place must represent, to some extent, both safety and stability. Relatives are also an interesting phenomenon in my view. Some families are remarkably close. They share similar interests and they actually like and even admire each other. Other families seem to bear little in common and feel isolated from each other. In either case, or something in between, I marvel at family because there can be so many hurts and betrayals that would cause you to cut a friend or lover out of your life. But with family, there can be an enormous amount of pain, and yet there you are exchanging gifts under the tree. Even when affection seems to be lacking, there's a mysterious glue that was designed to be durable for a couple of reasons. First, there was a time when the continuation of our species depended entirely upon each other, and straying too far from the familiar could be pretty dangerous. That may or may not be the case anymore, but family bonds continue to be an ingenious way to bring lessons in spiritual understanding for people to keep revisiting the same individuals working on peace and tolerance and forgiveness. Whether we feel like we want to or not, many of us are drawn back again and again to both home and family. The governess of the fourth house is the moon, a planet that begins a cycle and ends a cycle every month. That's one of the reasons the fourth is called the house of beginnings and endings. The average life for most of agricultural history consisted of being born on the same plot of land where your grandmother was born, working that plot of land, dying on it, and being buried on the hillside next to those who came before you. Even now that we roam the entire globe, we still bring our roots and foundation with us. We can't get around the genes we inherit, which are also found at the IC. Those microscopic channels of energy are with us for good or ill. And the fourth has a funny way of telling not just the conditions surrounding your early life, but also those surrounding the twilight of your life too. If we continue with the agricultural theme, we can see why it's so difficult to change our experience of the fourth. Yank up a plant by the stem and it grows back. To truly leave home, not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional and psychic sense, you have to dig deeper and pull up the entire root system. You've seen well-intentioned people who say they won't be like their parents and family, and so they move away. Now change around some of the details, and they go on to repeat what they experienced in their family of origin, just at a new address. You have to go deep to change the subconscious self-image that's hiding in the nadir. All the factors in your fourth give clues as to how to go about making the changes that you seek. Transits through the fourth bring opportunities to look at the same things through the same lens and yet see something new. This is so important because the bottom of the chart supplies the sun with the strength it needs to reach its full sparkle. Ideally, a child is loved. Their family shows them how to be woven into a group, to lean and be leaned on, and to be held in positive regard despite imperfections. Even in the best families, however, there's always some editing of the true self. Varying levels of imitation and conformity are required. In some, there's room for creative growth and concerted cultivation of talents. In others, expectations for conformity are extreme. To be a member of that family, you might have to follow a blueprint that was created prior to your conception, even generations ago. One of the missions of the IC and the planets in the fourth is to help you make it out of your family of origin with the individual self intact. There's a reason I haven't spoken about the mother in relationship to the fourth, and that's due to the fact that in classical astrology, this house was actually linked to the father. In patriarchal societies, the father's line inherits the resources, so the father creates family stability through income, profession, and everyone taking his name. I found this way of thinking difficult to understand in light of the fourth's association with the moon. The moon has been accepted almost universally as a feminine, maternal celestial body. So I began asking clients to describe their parents. Surprisingly, most descriptions of father match the fourth house, and descriptions of mother match the 10th. The moon may be pulling one of her eccentricities here, but it's very safe to say that the fourth is the house of at least one of the parents. Thank you for watching Secrets from an Astrologer's Desk, the fourth house. Stay tuned for all the ways you can get in touch for a birth chart reading and complete astrological services. I'm Joy. The fifth house is next.